Healing of sickness is possible, whether it's emotional or physical. In communities across the world, there are self-declared healers doing just that, in ways unimaginable. Ever wondered what they do in Reiki, or Vodou, and yoga? Let's go through the different methods and practices that helps us heal and be our best and healthier selves. Let's go!
Welcome to another episode of ABCs of Healing. As always, it's a pleasure to have you, and it's always a pleasure to have our guests, because our guests are giving us jewels, is what we can call it. Jewels for ways that you can heal your body, heal your mind, heal your spirit. And so today with us, we have Michael Gazzo. Welcome to the program.
Happy to be here.
And he's going to talk to us about cold exposure or cold therapy or cold healing. Different ways we can say that. And it is what it sounds like, being exposed to extreme cold temperature.
Yeah.
Right. So tell us about how cold therapy even heals.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So the first is like the most obvious. Athletes have been using cold therapy for a very long time, helping with inflammation, helping with circulation, helping with the physical body to heal. But there are deeper components to it. So anytime that you go into the cold water, what first is initiated is the sympathetic nervous system response. That's flight, fight, freeze, or fawn. Freeze is not also just the freezing cold, but also freezing in a moment. All four of these responses are associated with every possible emotional state. Every possible point where you feel like you're in danger, every part where you feel ungrounded. And what you utilize in cold therapy, the time period that we usually recommend is 3 minutes. Through the breath, what we're doing is slowing the heart rate down and entering into a conscious parasympathetic nervous system response. So parasympathetic is all of your calming sensations. It's the system that it's the part of your system that calms all of your organs and all of your body down. But it has to be through a lowered heart rate. It's, I believe, impossible to do it with a higher heart rate, meaning an elevated heart rate. So what does this all mean, right? At the end of the day, when you're experiencing emotion, if you train yourself in cold therapy at least once a day or a couple times a week, whatever you have access to, even a cold shower for 3 minutes, you're training your mind and your body that you can get, that not only do you change through a period of time that's uncomfortable, but you have the skill and the ability to shift with it consciously. Not to mention, the ice never lies. Okay, so if you go in the ice, something's coming up. If you're angry, the anger might come out. If you're upset, you might start crying. Because all the noise and the bottling that you put to keep things down is no longer there. It's also insanely present. I mean, if you go into cold water, you go into cold weather, you're like, oh, you're immediately present. So it's training the mind similar to meditation to remain present in uncomfortable situations, to train every part of us to stay present. And you know, it's also interesting because it usually takes, I've probably guided hundreds of people at this point through plunges and any type of cold therapy. I mean, we've done lake plunges, we've done showers, we've done like cowboy tubs filled with ice, like all sorts of
which is what I was going to ask you. What are the different ways you do expose your clients to this cold temperature?
Yeah, so the first is the most simple. We have 2 plunges at our home in Glendale, and we work with a company called Plunge. They're amazing guys, and their whole philosophy is about community, building community and servicing like the everyday person. Although there's a tons of athletes and stuff involved with the company, but we have 2 of those at the home. So those are spaces that people can walk, like literally just get into. They're like tubs, and they're always at 39 degrees or 40 degrees. And then for those that don't have access to that, if they're living in a colder climate, getting into a lake or a pond is amazing. We've done alpine lake plunges, which are like, I think anything above like 8,000 or 9,000 feet, that's like a lake. Those are amazing, like glacier lakes. And then cold showers are great too. Everybody can access a cold shower. So those are ways to do it. And the most important thing is just slowing your breath down. That's it. Wow. So it's a lot more than just healing the physical body.
Now, do you recommend this for women who are pregnant?
The pregnancies are the only times where it's a gray area for sure. I think that I would say that most of the people that have been pregnant have opted out due to what they were recommended through their doctor or physician. I always say to people, like, if you have a physician or a doctor that you utilize, talk to them before, if you have any preconditions with your heart or any preconditions or you're pregnant, situations like that. Just be safe,
Right.
Even though that we are in the more spiritual context, we're still not looking at science as not a real thing. So we kind of combine the two and use it as support for sure.
Now I'm going to ask a sexist question.
Okay.
Which gender do you find adheres to this better, men or women? Who handles this breath work and being plunged in the cold water better? Women.
100%. Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. We got this.
I mean, look, the female body undergoes more pain than we could even possibly imagine as a man. And it is one of the most beautiful things about being female is the procreation, is the ability to literally carry life and then give life to the world. So that pain, while it's supernatural, right, is immense. Not to mention, it is known that women have a higher tolerance of pain than men. It's just known. It doesn't mean that men aren't strong. It doesn't mean that we're not strong-willed and strong-minded. But when it comes down to it, I think that my observation has been most women have been able to make it through with a bit more ease and focus. In breath work, I would say a similar thing because women tend to be more sensitive and more in touch with their emotions than men, and the breathwork practice that we traditionally work with is all about opening the heart. So all the men with the fortresses built up around the heart, it's a little harder to break through that than it is for someone that's accessing those emotions more frequently. So with that being said, it also depends on the woman or man. Are they in more of their masculine or are they in more of their feminine?
Right.
Those are energies that are present in everyone, regardless of what sex or gender. It doesn't matter. It's just energies. So I think if somebody is more in touch with their feminine side, they'll likely be able to connect with the breath work more quickly and be able to move through the emotions that are present when the plunge happens. So.
Now, you had mentioned our fight response and our flight response, and then fawn, which I don't think people say a lot. Can you explain what that response is and looks like? Yeah,
so it's a relatively new term, fawn.
Okay.
From my understanding, and this may not be completely the verbatim definition, but it's very similar to freeze in the sense that what I would imagine fawn would be is over-identifying in whatever response it is. So if you're over-identified in something, so if you fight something, you're trying to fight it. Your flight, you're trying to run away. Freeze, you don't know what to do, and fawn is over-involved. So that's the way I look at it, is it becomes your story. So if you experience anxiety, a fawn response in the anxiety is, this is my anxiety. I have anxiety. I am a person with anxiety. Might be fawn, and you perpetuate it through fawning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's the way I perceive it, but it is a relative. I've only been saying fawn as an addition to the first three for only about 7-8 months, just because that's been something that's come through with general communities. But yeah. So.
I like how you said the cold does not lie, because it just kind of brings up whatever emotions that may be bubbling in the surface. That also makes me think, have you ever gotten a cut or just a fresh cut, but everything that you feel is going wrong in your life just comes out just because of that one little cut? It's everything's wrong with the world. So I feel like how you explain the ice doesn't lie or the cold doesn't lie, it's kind of like the same thing. It just kind of pulls out all those emotions that we might be holding in, or those baggages. Now, I remember you sharing how this has been a practice that's been going on for thousands of years, just looks differently. In what other cultures have we seen this?
So in the Himalayas, I don't know what tradition, exact type of, I believe it's Buddhist monks, but it may be a different type of a monk. But whatever it is, one of the practices as monks is to sit in the snow on the top of one of the mountains in the Himalayas. Maybe not the summit, but somewhere super freaking cold.
Yeah.
And they're in either they're completely bare or they're wearing just like underwear, and the other monks put wet blankets or towels rather on them, and then they have to use the breath and their concentration to heat their body so hot that it not only changes the temperature of the towel, but it actually dries the towel. I'd never seen it before, so I'm not sitting here saying I witnessed this, but some of the magic, mystical things that come from deep spiritual focused practices and lineages, I have seen a lot of magic happen, just not that firsthand. But look at Wim Hof. Wim Hof is a poster child for breath work and cold therapy, cold exposure. He has been injected with a virus and taught 4 or 5 other people his breathwork technique, and then 4 or 5 other people that didn't, and they were able to not only manage symptoms but fight the virus in less time than the people that were that didn't know the practice. Not to mention, he's been testing his brain and his body in the function of the breathwork and the cold therapy and what it does for you. He climbed Mount Everest in his shorts with David Blaine. There's more that we can do. So these are just examples, you know.
How do you prepare your clients for this? Hey, you're going to be plunged in really ice cold water. How do you mentally prepare them before they even step into this water? Even days before, like, how do you advise them to kind of mentally prepare to heal? Or
I just push them in. So everything fundamentally comes down to the breath. Everything.
Okay.
All of everything.
Okay.
If you're experiencing anxiety, you're usually getting an elevated heart rate, which will make your breathing more shallow or more rapid. Okay? So what I tell people before the plunge is focus on an intention, what you're either looking to release or you're looking to draw in, and the breath. So if you can start to do a breathwork practice or just notice your breath. Right before, I'll look at the breath work, or I'll tell them to do really deep inhale, deep exhale as they're getting into the plunge, and that'll help with the heart rate. So those are usually the things that I do to prepare the clients and anyone that's interested.
And last question. I know, we got to wrap it up. Last question. Can this work with young people? And by young, I mean ages 13, between 13 and 18.
Younger than that.
Younger than that. And you've experienced younger. Yeah.
Eileen's 12-year-old sisters have been in the plunge and have done 3 minutes.
Wow.
Eileen is my partner, my fiance. And then we've had 15-year-olds. We've had up till, I think the oldest person we've had in there is probably in their 50s. So I think even younger than that, I've seen other people like have 5-year-olds. They don't stay in for 3 minutes, but as long as they can.
Right.
And it's training. Start them young. This is the most malleable time. So.
Right. Wow. That's awesome. Well, as I said, this is where we wrap it up. And thank you so much, Michael, for sharing this with us. Cold therapy or cold healing. So think about it. Next time that hot water goes out, you'll be like, hey, maybe I can try a little therapy and step in the cold water. But of course, with your doctor's advice. Michael, tell us where our audience can find you.
Of course. So Instagram, all things Gazzo, and then the website is unearth.la. We're remodeling that, so it'll be a little bit different in the next month, but that's where you can find all the services and everything else. So.
And of course, we'll have that information for you below. And do not forget to answer the question that is below associated with this episode. And as always, click on the subscribe button so you can be there when we have our next episode. Thank you again so much.
Of course.
All right. Au revoir, everybody.
See you later.
See you later. That was great. That was good. I wanted to, because of time sake, I was curious. You said the oldest is 50. Do you recommend it for people who are even older? But